Okay, this is Dr. Martin's supplemental lecture on the movement of water in plants. This is going to be my last lecture on plant biology. We've talked mostly about structure, a little bit about function, but I do want to include this one concept because it's kind of important. So the question is, how does water move up a plant from the roots, which is where the water is first absorbed, up through the stem or the trunk, all the way to the leaves. And remember that some trees are extremely tall. The redwoods in California are 300 feet tall or more. So that's quite a height to be moving water. And it turns out that in plants, there's not a pump that's involved. It's actually due to a process that is called transpiration. So basically the idea is that we have water molecules. Remember the water molecule that is polar. So there's partial positive and partial negative areas, and water molecules tend to adhere to one another because of those opposite charges, and we call that cohesion. That's when water molecules bind to each other, and the force is called a hydrogen bond. So basically what we're looking at is a continuous system of tubes from the roots all the way up the trunk or the stem into the leaves. And within that system of tubes, there is a chain of water molecules. So if you can picture water molecules bonded to each other all the way down and all the way up. That gives you part of the picture here. In addition to cohesion, I'm going to introduce the term adhesion. There is some binding of water to the cell walls of these vessels also. Okay, so because of those two elements, we have essentially a chain of water molecules that exist from the tip of the roots all the way up into the leaves. Now, what sets the movement going is the evaporation of water from the leaf. And that evaporation is technically called transpiration. So as each water molecule exits the leaf, it exerts a tiny pull on the water molecule behind it. And that causes the entire chain of water molecules to inch their way up the xylem into the leaf. So you constantly have a flow of water from the roots up through the trunk into the leaves, and botanists have estimated that of the entire amount of water that a tree or plant takes up in, say, a day's time, about 90% of the water taken up by the roots is transpired. by the plant. In other words, it's lost to the atmosphere through the stomata in the leaves. Okay, so does that make sense? It's kind of an interesting explanation. There is a little bit of special things going on down here due to the movement of ions into the cells, and that does provide a little bit of pressure that will force fluid inward, but it doesn't really explain it cannot push water very far up. So root pressure can move water a little bit, but again, it's not the entire explanation by any means. The main explanation has to do with the polarity of water and the transpiration that occurs from the leaves of the plant. Okay, so that's the fourth little lecture on plant structure and function. And on Tuesday, tomorrow, we will take up the animal kingdom.